we just saved our money, had a small deposit. I believe it was about 20,000 at the time. My personal goal has always been to own a supercar, so Lamborghini, Ferrari, those types of things. Being frugal, I guess, is a good word. That was very difficult for her to accept. Friends were buying new cars and going on holidays, and they've been to Europe and been to the US and all those sorts of things. And I was sort of putting all those things on the back burner and just saying, look, one day we'll be able to do that, and it'll be very comfortable. It'll be much easier, in the later years, obviously we're in a pretty comfortable position now where we could go on a trip and it's not a financial strain, and we could probably do a trip a bit more comfortable than our friends were doing in their early 20s. I just I had this drive to get that car that I just couldn't accept failure. For me, it's not an option, it's a must.
You're listening to the Millionaires Unveiled podcast, where you'll hear the stories and interviews of everyday millionaires. We'll unveil their decisions, their strategies, and their current portfolio allocation. Now to your hosts, Clark Sheffield and Jace Mattinson.
Welcome back to another episode of the Millionaires Unveiled podcast. This is episode number 260. This week we've got a really exciting guest. His name's Tyson. He's an electrician for the government, and his wife works in retail. He's a net worth of $1.3 million. That's US. Because he is joining us from Australia. Super excited to have him. Great lessons, great conversation. Last week, we had a bunch of updates with several millionaires, the most recent one being Vlad. He had a net worth of $1.1 million. He's an immigrant, a remarkable story that you do not want to miss. We've had a couple requests over the years, but recently had it come in again to compile a list. Millionaires come on this podcast and various guests, and the thing that they say that's worth spending the most money on is experiences. And the most common answer of things to not spend money on is things. So we've had this request come in a couple times, and it's come in again recently to compile a list of experiences that have been most valuable to millionaires. So if you'd like to participate, send us an email, millionairesunveiled@gmail.com. Give us a list of the top 2 or 3 experiences that you've paid for, that you thought were worth it. And we'll start to kind of put this together for everyone's benefit, more or less. Once again, if you'd like to be on the show, send us an email, millionairesunveiled@gmail.com. It's several great guests coming up here in the short term here in the fall and in through the new year, but always looking for new guests. So without any further delay, let's get into the interview with Tyson.
Tyson, do you want to just give us a little about your background and what you're up to now?
Yep. So basically, I'm an electrician for the government. My wife's in retail. We purchased our first property at the age of 22. We basically started with just a small deposit, and by the age of 28, we had achieved $1 million net worth, trying to build on that since then.
So what is your net worth today?
Currently sitting at 1.8 million Australian.
So just for our listeners right now, that's roughly 1.3. So Tyson, you're an electrician, your wife's in retail, got 1.8 Australian. How is that broken up?
So mostly in real estate, which is how we started. Currently in real estate, we have approximately 1.9 worth of real estate and about 360,000 in Australian shares, and a few other, like our retirement accounts, which are at about 240,000, a few other small things, crypto, some gold, silver.
How much do you have in crypto and gold and silver?
Gold and silver at the moment. I did just make a purchase recently, so I should be at about $18,000 in gold and silver. That's physical. And in crypto, currently sitting at about 23,000.
How come you started putting some money into gold and silver and crypto?
Crypto was sort of started with that. Trying to hit big, I guess, like everyone when it sort of started.
Going to the moon?
Yeah, that's it, of course. Unfortunately, mine's gone nowhere, basically. I've put in about 20,000 and I'm at about 23,000, so haven't really done anything out of that. Gold was, for me, just sort of dart on just hedging against inflation. I guess. Yeah, obviously, it's not an income-producing asset. It's more just a store of value. So hopefully it can retain that over time.
Did you start acquiring that right when you started your professional career?
No, actually, gold and silver for me is pretty recent. Started purchasing probably around about a year and a half ago. Started to accumulate some.
Okay. The real estate, how is that broken up? Walk us through each deal, I guess, that you started to accumulate that real estate portfolio.
Okay, so our first property, as I said, that was at the age of 22. We're now both 34. That was $260,000 at the time. We bought that with the intention of it one day becoming an investment property. So we lived in that at the time because we get benefits in Australia if we choose to live in our first property. We then purchased 2 units in the time that we were living there, and those were around $340,000 each. One of which we actually went halves with another family member. And then our largest property asset, we purchased 3 years after purchasing our first property, which was a house that we intended on living in forever. We've since moved out of there, but our intention was to live there forever. And that one we purchased for about $488,000. So currently, our first property that we purchased for $260,000 is now roughly worth about $530,000. So practically double. One of the units which we still own that we paid about $340,000 for is currently worth about $540,000. The other unit that we purchased with a family member, we sold out of that one, and the house that we purchased for $480,000 is currently around $830,000.
Wow, so you've got some pretty substantial property appreciation in the last 5-6 years.
Yeah, definitely.
Are all of those units rented?
Yeah, all of our properties are tenanted.
And do they cash flow?
Yeah, they're all positive.
Interesting. Do you have any desire to pull some of the equity out and go continue acquiring more properties, or is that not something that's typically done in Australia?
Yeah, it's definitely something that we've tried to do. We've been limited by the banks, not willing to lend more money. We've been trying to purchase another property for quite a few years now, and every time we've tried to purchase, they basically tell us that we're at our lending limit, although we feel very comfortable with paying the mortgages that we have, and we feel that we could definitely take on more. That's actually why we started investing in shares, because the banks were limiting us from accessing more property.
All right. Well, first of all, Tyson, cool accent, right? It's fun to have people in Australia. I feel like we've had more than any other country people from Australia, right, Chase? So fun to get that. So let's talk real estate here. So you got of your net worth, you have about 1.9 equity, or excuse me, what do you have? 1.9 value of the real estate, 1.1 in debt. So you got about 800,000 of your net worth is in equity. So you're about 60% levered, right? That's pretty low, at least in terms of U.S., right? I mean, pretty good to be at 60%. So, but you said you have problems getting more?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, the banks just don't seem to be willing to lend. They're pretty they've changed a lot of the rules and regulations around lending because of obviously the risk of people defaulting on loans. So yeah, we've been trying, but just haven't been successful at the moment.
Yeah. So how'd this start? I know Jace just asked you that, but I'm thinking starting even before what you answered in terms of why real estate and where did you get the money to buy the first one?
Yeah, so the money to get the first one basically came from saving. We both had jobs. I've always been an electrician. My wife's always been in retail. So we just saved our money, had a small deposit. I believe it was about $20,000 at the time. My personal goal has always been to own a supercar. So Lamborghini, Ferrari, those types of things. And I basically just started by doing research on how people afford cars like that without working in like a professional capacity where CEOs of companies and those types of things. So I figured it had to be done. People do it other ways. Property seemed to be a pretty obvious one in Australia. Obviously, probably most of your interviewees from Australia, I would say, are probably in property. It's definitely a pretty big deal in Australia to invest in property. It's just something that people feel comfortable with. It's something you can touch. It's tangible, and yeah, everyone's sort of comfortable with it, I guess.
Yeah. So that first deal, walk us through it. How much did you put down on it?
So we we would use our 20,000 deposit that we had saved. Also, being our first home at the time, the government gave us $14,000 towards it. They also waive stamp duty fees, which would have been around $20,000. So that fee gets waived. We get the extra $14,000 from the government and our $20,000 that we had saved at the time. Yeah, so the $260,000 property after fees and real estate fees, and that basically becomes about a $230,000 mortgage.
So why do they waive those fees?
It's just to encourage young people, I guess, starting out, to help them buy a first property.
So you have to have what, like a certain net worth or be a certain age to qualify, or?
It's basically just your first property purchase. As long as it's your first purchase in Australia and your intention is to live in it for at least 6 months within the first 12 months, they basically waive stamp duty fees and sometimes provide a bit of cash towards the deal, basically.
Okay, interesting. So maybe in the U.S. it's comparable to an FHA, not really, because you're not really waiving the fees, but at least that's what they're trying to do to incentivize people to give a little bit more leverage on a first home purchase. And so how many units now do you have?
1 unit, 1 townhouse, and 1 house.
So 3 total?
Yeah, 3.
And how much together did those cash flow a month, give or take? Are we talking like a few $100s a month, or?
Maybe if I just explain the rent. So the townhouse rents for about $440 a week. The unit rents for approximately the same, about $445 a week is the unit. And our house is currently getting $600 a week of that. So the mortgage that's attached to the townhouse is costing currently about $500 a month. The mortgage attached to the unit is currently costing about $800 a month. And mortgage attached to the house is about $550 a month.
All right. So you got some nice cash flow on that, especially on the one that you said you rent for $600 a week, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. That's pretty awesome.
So is the goal here to just keep buying more real estate?
We're definitely trying to purchase more. At the moment, my wife's not working. So the banks have basically said that they won't lend any money at all at the moment due to that.
Yeah.
Which is understandable. But we definitely got things in the works trying to get that across the line, the next property purchase, which will be interstate. We plan on purchasing probably in Queensland. It just tends to be cheaper than New South Wales and good rental yields.
So it seems like, if you take the equity of your real estate, well, first of all, it seems like you like real estate, right? So if you take the equity of your real estate, you're actually pretty split here, maybe 60-40 real estate to stock market on your net worth, right? Yep. You have about, 550,000 or so in the market, which is whatever, 350 USD. So does it entice you at all to pull that money out of the market and take it and buy more real estate?
To be honest, I've actually been thinking about doing the opposite, considering selling property to put into the market. Kind of, like I said, due to the banks not being able to lend us any money, we've started investing in the market a bit more. And I like the fact that there's no holding costs when investing in stocks, where obviously with property you've got land rates and fees and real estate fees, where holding shares, there's no holding costs.
But then that doesn't create your passive income to buy your Lamborghini.
Yeah, well, we've got pretty good dividend yields in Australia, so it's actually not too bad. It's pretty easy to get 5% or more dividend return in Australia. So yeah.
So the 550, what is it invested in? The stock market money, that is.
Yeah, so mostly ETFs and some what we call listed investment companies, or would be like maybe a managed fund type investment. A couple of single stocks, but that was more purchases that I'd made early on with less knowledge. I sort of wish that I probably started with exchange traded funds or listed investment companies. Yeah. But fortunately, the single stocks have done okay.
So let me ask you, Tyson, about the retirement accounts there. How does it work there? I mean, obviously in the U.S. here we have Roth and traditional, right, post and pre-tax accounts. What do you have there? How is it all set up?
Basically, money that is put in by your employer. So we actually haven't really put much into ours at all. It's all employers' contributions. The government mandates that they put in, I think it's now changed to 10% of our income.
Wow, 10% annually?
That's right, yeah.
That's good. That's just an extra 10% pay bump, right?
Yeah, that's right, yeah. That's awesome. And I think we've got both of those accounts at the moment in high growth.
Okay, and does that money, do you have an option on whether that retirement money grows tax-free or not?
It is tax-free. So we basically get a 15% tax saving on that money when it goes in. We don't pay the full tax rate. And when we get it out at our like retirement age or what do we call it, preservation age, it is tax-free.
And what age is that? There's requirements probably, right, on when you can touch that money?
Yeah, I think it changes every time depending on how the government feels about it. But at the moment, I believe it's 67.
67 right now.
Yeah.
All right, so it's 59.5 in the U.S., so you're a little bit higher.
Yeah.
There's some people that might not make it to 67.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I personally don't really like it. To be honest, I'd rather the money and invest it myself.
Yeah. So Tyson, tell us your story here. How'd this all start? I mean, how did you start learning and getting involved in personal finance?
So I started as an apprentice electrician at the age of 17 for a government organisation. I've basically been with them my whole career, and obviously always been into cars. I've had a couple of Skylines, which are very common in Australia, and just always aspired to have a supercar like a Lamborghini or Ferrari or those types of things, and really just did as much research as I could as to how that would be achievable. So I've looked into almost every investment type that there is, basically just Google, did a lot of reading in the early days before we'd even purchased a property, and after looking at everything like investing in business and investing in shares, I did play around with shares a little bit in the early days but didn't fully understand it, so I got out. Fortunately, I made money out of that deal. And then I honestly seen property as the only way, to be honest, in Australia. It's obviously something that everyone's very comfortable with. And yeah, I thought that would be the only way. And then since the banks obviously putting restrictions on us, that's sort of forced me to move to the stock market. Still aspiring to get that supercar, but haven't purchased one yet. Yeah, just trying to build up that passive income. And I've also become familiar with the FIRE movement, which is something that sort of goes against owning a supercar. But if we can build enough passive income to support the habit, that would be awesome.
You're right, it does, right?
I was just about to say, Tyson, you got all these competing goals, man. I freaking love it. It's great. So let me ask you, first of all, in Australia, can you invest in the stocks and stock market outside of what would be considered retirement accounts?
Yes, that's basically about 360,000 of our stock investments are outside of any retirement accounts, so it's completely under our control. Inside the investment accounts, it's up to the government to change the rules and push back the preservation age, and which is why I don't really like it.
So 360 grand in those accounts, I mean, that's enough for your supercar, right?
That's right, yeah, it is. It's very hard not to sell out and go buy one.
So at what point do you feel like you're going to be able or ready to go strike that purchase for that Ferrari or Lamborghini?
I think if I can replace my income with passive income, I feel like that would be a good time to go and make that purchase.
And how far away do you think you are from that?
Probably $50,000 a year in passive income. I'd need to increase.
Okay. So you got a few more years. Do you have that car picked out? I mean, is that sitting on your dream board that you're looking at in terms of motivating you every day?
Nah, I'm too much of a car enthusiast. I honestly don't even know what I will purchase when I have the time and money to do it. Too hard to pick.
Have you gone and test drove, touched them, feel them, make sure it's the one you want to motivate you, or is it just...
I've driven a few Lamborghinis and Ferraris, and obviously I've been very fortunate to be able to do that because it's not something that everyone gets to do. But they are obviously very fun to drive, and it's motivating just to see them and hear them for someone who is a car enthusiast. But yeah, that's kind of started out being my main goal, was purchasing the car. But yeah, as you said, slightly conflicting. I really do like the FIRE movement and sort of want to retire early. So it's a little bit conflicting as to whether or not I may ever achieve that car.
Yeah, we could just reframe it, right? Retire early, but retire early in a supercar for you.
Yeah, that's right. That sounds good.
When did you start having that desire to buy a sports car?
As I said, I had Skylines when I was younger, and then really didn't think a supercar would be achievable at that time. Probably around the age of like 20, 21 would have been when I really started to realize that it actually may be possible if I knuckle down and invest right and do all the right things with the money that we have. So yeah, I'd say around the age of 20 was when I sort of, really wanted to get that car and actually realized that it would be possible. It's based off the research that I'd done on, other people achieving similar type goals.
Did your wife have any, we call it a BHAG, like a big, hairy, audacious goal out there like a sports car, or is she along for the ride to get you one of those too so she can just ride along with you, or she can drive it and you can ride in the passenger seat?
She's very supportive of me getting a supercar. She sort of gets sick of hearing me talk about it. She just says, just go buy one, hurry up and get one. But, she's pretty happy. She likes the fire movement. She likes the idea of me being able to retire because my work is very time consuming and demanding. She's happy to work. So, yeah, she doesn't really have a massive goal. She just really wants to spend as much time, I guess, as we can together as a family. We have 2 boys, 3 and 5, and basically, just holidays, I guess, travel and try to explore the world.
You're going to have to get you one of those Porsches or an Aston Martin. It's got 4 seats if you got 2 boys to take around too.
Yeah, that's right. Or get a babysitter.
Or get a babysitter. That works too. That's awesome. So this interest in personal finance, obviously you've been thinking about some of your goals and dreams for quite some time. What was the conversation like with your wife as you were sharing with her your hopes and dreams and your interest in finance? Was she on board with you, or did it take some time to kind of merge all that together?
That took a lot of time and effort. Obviously, being in your early 20s and trying to save money and work towards investing and being frugal, I guess is a good word. That was very difficult for her to accept. Friends were buying new cars and going on holidays, and they've been to Europe and been to the US and all those sorts of things. And I was sort of putting all those things on the back burner and just saying, look, one day we'll be able to do that and it'll be very comfortable. It'll be much easier. In the later years, obviously we're in a pretty comfortable position now where we could go on a trip and it's not a financial strain, and we could probably do a trip a bit more comfortable than our friends were doing in their early 20s. But yeah, it was a very difficult discussion, very difficult time to sort of stay motivated and even to keep myself motivated. Just had that sort of bit of a strain. You just sort of want to give up at times and stop saving and start spending and buy a new car and go on the holidays. But I just had this drive to get that car that I just couldn't accept failure. It's for me, it's not an option, it's a must.
So what was it that kept you going?
Basically the drive to get to a financial position where we could afford to do basically whatever we want and purchase that car, to be honest.
And how old were you when you became a millionaire?
28.
And did that happen sooner or later, or about when you thought it would? I mean, obviously that's really quick.
Yeah, I would say it happened sooner. Kind of didn't even realize that it had happened, to be honest, when we crossed the $1 million mark. And I actually didn't tell anyone for quite some time, not even my wife. She didn't know. I was a little bit worried about how she'd take it. She'd just be like, that's it, let's go on a holiday, let's spend the money, let's do this, I was a little bit concerned about telling her, so she didn't find out for quite some time.
And then is that what she said when you told her?
No, she actually took it pretty well, and she was like, oh yeah, that's good. And then that was sort of it. I was expecting more, but she's just obviously really trusting with the financial decisions that I've made for us. And yeah, we're both very comfortable and happy with where we are, I guess.
Yeah. So do other people know that you're a millionaire?
Very few people. A couple of people that I trust, that I've shared some information with, but basically nobody, to be honest, nobody outside a very small circle. Our family doesn't really know. They may have their own thoughts and opinions, but no one really knows. Hence why I've tried to, I've started that Average Millionaire Facebook page, basically to try and share my journey and encourage other people, but keep it anonymous due to the fact that at times I've been met with negativity when talking to people about finances.
Yeah, so mention that again. I mean, normally I plug it at the end, but a Facebook page called Average Millionaire where people can connect, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Okay.
So I've basically tell a bit about what I'm doing each month, where we're at financially, what our plans are, and yeah, a little bit of information about what we're doing.
So what does this mean for you now, career-wise, Tyson? I mean, if you're at 1.89 Australian, 1.3 USD, does that mean you're going to slow down working as an electrician, or do you have a specific number you want to get to?
I probably want to sort of keep doing the hours and the job that I'm doing at least probably for the next sort of 5 years. I mean, working for the government, it's pretty comfortable, pretty secure, and decent money. So I'm probably happy to do it for another 5 years. Also, I do commute. It's a pretty big commute, generally about an hour to an hour and a half each way, which is horrible.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll probably keep doing it for about 5 years and then look at maybe sort of doing like half the hours that I'm doing at the moment. So I'm basically doing about 40-hour weeks, but if I could 40 to 50, I'm doing at the moment, sorry. And if I can slim that down half, that would be awesome.
Yeah. What's been your range of household income?
So when I got the job initially, I think I would have started on about, I think it was 15 to 20,000 a year. I'm now currently in the position I'm in. I think my last year was about 170,000.
Wow, good for you.
This
and what
year,
about your wife?
She probably ranged between 20 to 60,000. Would have been at her peak. Since having the kids, she's dropped back to probably around 15,000 a year.
All right, so together you got up over 200.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, probably.
Good for you. And what about household spending annually?
We spend around about $100,000 a year. Basically, that would be that sort of covers everything. That's any trips that we do, any sort of small holidays that we can do, all our car expenses, living expenses. We're currently renting. That covers our rent. Yeah, that pretty much covers everything. About $100,000 a year.
Interesting to have 3 rental properties and be renting.
Yeah. We call it rent vesting. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that term, but
no, I haven't. Explain it.
Yeah, so rent vesting is basically purchasing a property with the intention of it being an investment property and renting yourself somewhere that you would like to live, because generally, you may not be able to afford a property where you'd like to live. Yeah, the main reason we actually are renting at the moment was to get into a different school district, and obviously the lifestyle. We're pretty close to the water where we are, and yeah, so.
So you mentioned the lifestyle just there. So as the net worth and the income has grown, has the lifestyle increased as well? Are you spending more now than you did?
Yeah, definitely. I don't think if we could go back a couple of years, I don't think we were spending $100,000 a year. We're definitely living very comfortable at the moment. Like I said, part of our goal has been to sort of live how we want. We sort of, we don't hold back. If we want to go out for dinner, we'll go out for dinner. If we, want to purchase something, whether it's like a new push bike or new shoes, I upgrade my Apple iPhone every year, and silly things like that. We just do it now. We're in a comfortable position where we can basically do that.
Yeah. So you did this mainly, Tyson, correct me if I'm wrong here. Let me just make sure I understand. So you did this here in about 6 years, right? So 22 to age 28, you hit millionaire at 28. You bought the first rental property just from saving up money. I assume you bought the second and third by doing the same. You were both working. Was it before you had kids, and you just kind of saved up the money, bought one, saved up the money, bought a second, saved up the money, bought a third?
Yeah, that's basically it.
So how did you do it so quickly? If someone were to say, hey, how'd you do this before age 30? You're 28 years old. You have 3 rental properties. You're at 1.8 Australian, 1.3 USD. How did you do this? What 2 or 3 things would you say really stuck out for you?
Don't spend money on things that aren't necessary, I guess, like saving, live a little bit frugal, look for an investment that you're comfortable with. Property may not be for everyone. Perhaps shares may be the go for some people. Personally, obviously in Australia, like I said, everyone's pretty comfortable with property, and you can leverage a lot of the bank's money to make those purchases. But yeah, basically we lived pretty frugally in the beginning and just saved hardcore and purchased a property. And as you said, saved, purchased a property, saved and purchased a property. And yeah, just keep that goal inside, I guess, and work towards it.
What was your upbringing like? And did that affect how your relationship with money?
I think so, yeah. So both my wife and I grew up in very probably lower middle class families where, you know, if I had a pair of Reeboks or a pair of Nikes, it was because they were secondhand. If we went to, you know, the cinemas to see a movie, it was because we had vouchers for, you know, like half-price movies. So definitely probably lower middle class upbringing with myself and my wife. But in saying that, like, I didn't want for anything. Obviously, we both come from loving families, which is great.
Has the money made you happier?
I wouldn't say money makes you happier, but it definitely helps you be more comfortable, I guess. I don't know how to word that, but yeah. Money definitely doesn't buy happiness, but it's easy to say that when you've got a lot of money, I think. Not to say that I've got a lot of money, but it definitely makes life a little bit more comfortable. And there's a lot of things that we don't stress about and don't worry about because we know we obviously have a bit of money behind us if anything was to happen.
Yeah, so I think we talked about this just briefly, but do you have a net worth goal?
Not particularly. More a passive income goal, really. But we'll continue to grow our net worth, I guess, as much as we have to reach the passive income goal. I'd love to see, 10 million net worth as an example. But if we don't achieve that, I would just be happy with the passive income of, say, $200,000 a year.
All right, let me wrap up here with a couple rapid fire questions, and then we'll go into some last words of advice. So, do you budget?
No.
Okay. Have you ever used a financial advisor?
I've attempted to a couple times, but didn't really like it.
Okay. Do you do your own taxes? I'm not sure what tax returns are like there. Do you do your own taxes or do you hire it out?
Pay someone to do it just because it's too difficult.
Because of the rental properties?
Yeah, properties and shares, and yeah, it's too much.
Okay. How much does it cost you? I'm just curious.
About $150, $200.
Oh, that's cheap, man.
It is very cheap. Yeah.
$100 or something USD. Yeah, that's really cheap. How many hours of TV do you watch a week?
Probably too much. Probably say 8 hours a week, 10 hours a week.
Okay. Any books or products you recommend?
Google.
That's where you've learned most of it, huh?
Yeah, I just Google everything and try to read, use free resources. Being frugal, I have opted for not purchasing books and trying to read as much free information as I can.
Okay. Any debt besides what you have on the real estate?
No.
Okay. And what's the most you've ever spent on a car? Because I know you want your nice one. What's the most you spent to date?
$22,000 for an SUV for my wife.
All right, so about $15,000 USD. So, just wrapping up here, Tyson. I mean, I asked you a little bit what 2 or 3 things drove this, but what would be your last words of advice? I know you've done obviously phenomenally well. No big mistakes, I don't think, unless you can mention something. But what would be the last words of advice to people listening to this? How were you able to do it so quickly?
Invest in what you feel comfortable with. Don't go overboard. Do your research. Definitely do research. Yeah, work hard. Save. Yeah. Always try to appreciate family time, I guess. That's very important to myself and my wife.
Cool. Well, Tyson, thanks for coming on again. Everybody, you can connect with him, Average Millionaire, on Facebook. So net worth of about 1.9 AUS, 1.3 USD. So thanks again, Tyson. Fun interview.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Thanks for listening to the Millionaires Unveiled podcast with Clark Sheffield and Chase Mattinson. For more stories, investment opportunities, and information, check out our website at millionairesunveiled.com. See you next time when you'll hear from another everyday millionaire.